Premier Gospel.
Thank you for joining us today. So you're a financial, you work with financial services. You've been working with them for since 2013, and you're going to be speaking to us on responsible or sensible money management guidance. Now, can you give us a forecast of how 2021 is looking in respect of the COVID-19 situation? Can you give us a little background or a little something on that?
Yeah, of course. COVID-19, as you can imagine, has had a massive impact on the UK economy. And as a result, you can expect the UK economy to be smaller this year than it has been in previous years. The reasons for that is both large and small companies have been affected. So you have many shops that are closed, and if the shops are closed, no one's going there to purchase things. You have small businesses are struggling because people can't actually get to them. And as a result of this, you have people losing their jobs. You've also got, for example, the airline industry has been decimated. No one can really travel anywhere. So all these things put together will make for a much smaller UK economy. Conversely, what you also find is that people who have kept their jobs and are working from home, they'll have more disposable income. So, for example, I've been working from home for the last few months. So you find those people have more money, though people might be spending a lot more on Amazon, etc. But overall, the economy will be smaller than it was in previous times.
So hopefully we can see a brand new car from you, hopefully in the next couple of years. So
we'll see.
What can one do to sort of like make a better money management plan? What can we do better in regards to money management planning?
Yeah, I think the key is what you said in plan, that so many people don't have a written plan of what they're trying to do. I think the saying goes, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So I think, first of all, having a written plan of what you and your family want to do in terms of budget is an essential step, because that's agreed, you've written it down, and so you know how much you've got going in, and you know how much you've got going out, because you'd be surprised, a lot of people have a lot more going out than they do have coming in. So getting that written down and tidied up is the essential first step. Part of that, saving regularly, so making it a habit that you save regularly, and having the mindset that you don't just save what's at the end, but that you pay yourself first, that in that budget which you've figured out in the first step, you're paying yourself regularly from whatever your income is, and then from there you can do what you want with the rest, but making sure that that saving is a habit. And I think the third one, and the main one, is to avoid debt like the plague. I'll say it again, avoid debt like the plague. So yeah, I think if you get started on those 3 steps, then you're moving in the right direction.
You know, there's a misconception that that Christians have about money. Now, do you know anything about those misconceptions?
Yeah, I've got a couple. One of them is that you can't be rich and a Christian, as it's not humble. You shouldn't be rich. You need to be really poor and holy. And I don't think that's true at all, because the Bible said the Lord has given us the power to obtain great wealth. And with acquiring wealth doesn't make you good or bad. If anything, they said money exposes the character that was there before. So I think when you do have resources, which God has given us the ability to acquire, you can use that for good. You can use that for His kingdom. So I don't think that is necessarily true. And that leads into another one, which I've hear quite a lot, is that money is the root of all evil, which is actually wrong. The love of money is the root of all evil. Money itself is just a tool to be used for good or bad. So God says, you know what, you cannot worship God and money. So the idea is that we worship God, and money is just there as a tool to be used for the right things. And so the money itself is not evil. The third misconception I have, especially as Christian, is that we don't need to tithe. And I think this is an important one. It's quite sensitive for some people. So yeah, I definitely went there. One of the things I believe is that our resources, our money, is not our own, it's from God. And so God he's commanded us that 10% belongs to Him. And so you get a lot of people who think, oh, I don't need to give my money to the church, or what they do with the money, or it's mine. And I think this is a misconception. We need to have the belief that actually it all comes from God, and He's all us to give 10% back to Him. And I think it's the right thing to do. So those are, I think, the main misconceptions I have.
You know, you touched on tithing as a principle. What other sensible money management guidance uh, that are based. What are the money management guidance that are based on biblical principles?
Yeah. I would say, yes, obviously you've got tithing. I'd say saving, as I've touched on before, is one that is based on biblical principles, just making sure you're putting enough away, not always using everything that you have. Another one that I've seen that I've only recently realized is in the Bible is investing. And I know people here investing, they think panicking, scaring, but I think it is actually biblical to invest. Actually, what the story I refer to is the parable of the talents, that the master gave them a certain amount of talents and he expected them to use that to make more money. And in my sense, there's an interpretation there that he wants you to use what is given to make more of. So I think that those are key things I see as biblical messages. And also avoiding debt like the plague, because I keep saying it. It says in the Bible, the borrower is the slave to the lender, and it's so true. You find that if you get yourself in massive amounts of debt, you become a slave to the lender. So to avoid that slavery, we need to avoid debt as much as possible.
So I want to ask you this question. You know, you talked about slavery. What about those who have mortgages? Aren't they
Yeah.
enslaved to the debtor?
I think that is a wise use of debt. I think if somebody, for example, if somebody only has a mortgage as their only debt, I think you and I could agree that person's in a very good place. So I think I've had the analogy that debt is almost like a fire. Fire is useful. It can be used for heat, it can be used for cook, but it can also burn, kill, and destroy. So if someone only has mortgage debt, then yeah, that's fine. What I'm talking about is where people have excessive credit card debt on stuff they don't need. They're taking out loans for this, that, and the other. What I really, really don't like is how credit is pushed onto young people, students. And I mean, if someone's a student on student loan and you're giving them a credit card, how do you expect them to pay that back? So that is what I'm talking about. But something like a mortgage, yeah, that's necessary. I think that's okay.
That sounds good, because I've got a big mortgage, just like everybody else. So, which, God willing, we pray that we will finish very, very soon. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Now, so you write blogs,
Yes.
and first of all, what's the blog called, and why did you start writing it?
Yeah. So I've got a blog called 10 Talents Financial Stewardship. And so the name 10 Talents comes from the story of the parable of the talents. So I explained that in my blog. And I'm very careful to put financial stewardship, not financial services, because stewardship is a word we don't hear too much, but it's managing what's yours, but what's someone else's. So in terms that our resources are given to us by God. So really, we're just managing it. It doesn't really belong to us. And so what made me start is that, as I've told you, by day, I'm a financial planner. So I help people with lots of money, manage their money and make more money. But with the stuff that I learn and I know, I thought this would be good if regular people on average incomes knew this as well, so that they could build up their level of wealth to a level where they'll have enough and they'll be able to pass things on. So I really wanted to pass the knowledge I had, and I'd only give to sort of like high earning people, but to the everyman effectively.
That sounds quite cool. So, I mean, what else do you talk about? First of all, how is your blog different from others? Because I know that there are a lot of people blogging at the moment. How is it different? Obviously, it's a Christian one, but what else makes it different from other bloggers?
Yeah, I mean, and that's a good question, because it's something that stopped me from writing a blog. It's like, what can I say that's different? Because there's a lot of great finance blogs out there. But I think, as you said, it's an unashamed focus of having Christ at the center and his word at the center. That I don't think there's 2 minutes that really put that front and center of what they're talking about. And because I believe there's so much biblical wisdom, as I go through that, wow, this makes sense. And it's just a perfect marriage of the two things I'm passionate about, which is God and obviously finances. So I think it brings that together quite well. And I think what makes it unique is that it is me who's speaking it. That one thing I had to tell myself is that we each have a unique voice, unique perspective, and sort of what I'm thinking, nobody else has the same thought process. So by putting it down, maybe people will benefit from that.
So you look, like a young person, a very, very young person. Um, Now you've done this blog. It seems that it's aimed at a certain type of person. Now,
Yeah.
would you in the future be thinking about doing a blog for young people who have just left school or who've just left university, wanting to jump into the financial boat, looking to buy a house or looking to start a business? Is that something that you could think of doing, or have you already done that in your blog?
I believe in some ways I touch upon that, because really the blog is for anybody and everybody wants to listen. Anybody who feels they can benefit, then yeah, they should definitely go for it. My heart is especially for people in the church who sort of like, they're Christians, they believe, but they don't know as much money. It's also for Black working class families where I grew up, in that sort of, where we've lived a certain experience, but I feel the financial literacy in Black working class families isn't where it should be to be able to take the wealth to the next level. And it's also aimed at millennials, so the people describing young people who are just leaving uni, who are just getting involved in finances for the first time, because I think there's certain things you and I know that if we did in our early 20s, we'd be laughing right now. And I really like the idea of giving them that head start, so that when they get to my position or your position, they can sit thinking, oh, I'm so happy I did that now, and it makes life for them easy in the future.
You spoke about millennials. Now, do you think that the generation before failed to teach young people about the perils of finance? Is that one of the reasons why you do it? Or do you think that, in general, do you think that there was an issue with the last generation and finance?
I feel generally there was a knowledge gap, and it wasn't just a generation in terms of like our families, but also in terms of the education system, because as they say, they teach you how to dissect a frog or whatever, but when it comes to managing money, taxes, finances, there's not enough, there wasn't enough information there. So people are almost left to fend for themselves. You've got people who haven't really managed money, and then they come to university and they're given thousands of pounds. So I think there definitely was a knowledge gap there, and it's important that people are proactive in filling that gap and gaining that knowledge so that they can make the right decisions going forward.
Okay, that's an interesting answer. Now, how can people get hold of you online?
Yeah. So at the moment, you can go onto the website, which is www.10talents.co.uk, and we're also on Instagram at 10talentsuk. So if you follow me on Instagram, check the website, then you'll be able to see the content I'm putting out there. Definitely have a look at it now, because I've recently put up some financial tips for the new year. So if you're looking to go into the new year, make the right changes to do better this year, then I definitely recommend you have a look.
Well, I, for one, will be jumping on your website to have a look, see what we can do in regards to this year and the coming years, and God willing, teaching my children as well. I think that's a great thing. I think that's a great thing. Ron Mbakwe, thank you for joining us today.
Premier Gospel.